my normal time. And yeah, the recording went kaflooey because the internet in our entire area apparently went and blew up. So I don't know exactly what happened, but it took them over 2 hours to get everybody back online. So anyway, that's just the way it is. So I'm going to just start over, and those of you watching the recording won't know the difference, but those of you watching live, of course, you'll know the difference. So we're just going to have a little redo for anybody that happens to be watching live. We're just going to do a little redo. And so I want to start out with some mail I got today. And interestingly, I got a couple of a response from Lady True North Jan, because she watched the recording. And so she told me more about all this good stuff that she sent. And she sent me, this came in the mail yesterday, and so in here she says, warning, travel file folder fodder enclosed. Sent to you with love from the traveling, but now at home, bears, Jan and Gary. And so she says, hi Barb and Zoo, something for the zoo to play with, LOL. And so in this package, there was a really pretty piece of marbled paper with an envelope. So it's like a note, which was really nice, very pretty paper. And then I was going to pull up the explanations that she sent me for I'm looking for it here. Okay. In here there was a bag, and it's this bag. Whoops, I got tapage. This. And she said that this was the envelope that your cutlery and napkin comes to your table, all bundled up inside. She said their pizza's wood-fired and is lovely. So that was kind of cool. So it's a sack. So that's apparently how the cutlery and napkin gets to you. So that's cool. Of course, with a zoo on the front. And the other thing she said, this. Is it this? No. This. The tape is being very contrary at the moment. And all of this came from Italy. When she and Mr. Bear were in Italy, seemed like they were gone forever, but actually they weren't gone that long. Hi, Xandra. And what this is, she says, is the step-by-step brochure. Details the charms you collect if you walk the path between all 5 villages of the Cinque, I don't know how you pronounce this, Cinque Terre. So this is it here. And so if you walk this whole path to all these villages, then you get a charm in all these places, but you have to walk. So that must be quite, that's why it's called step by step. That must be quite a journey. So that was cool. And then this is a brochure from, in the wonderful church of San Cristoforo, you can find Leonardo da Vinci Machines Museum, an exhibition which presents about 55 to 60 models entirely reproduced from Leonardo da Vinci's Codex. The machines have been made from wood, brass, fabric, and bronze, and divided into 4 sections such as war, with models in bronze, flying, water, mechanical, and building, with a lot of interactive machines. Video, documentaries, explanations, one for each model, and illustrative panels keep sharp the scientific and cultural level of the exhibition, especially for students. So I think this would be a great, fun thing to go see. I think this would really be cool. So you get to see how they've turned his drawings and so forth into machines. I just think that would be great. And then there was this card from the Garden Barn. And I think that this looks like one of the faces that Claus Man, my husband, carves on a lot of the Santas and so forth. but just very cool. Love the design. Just really interesting things to use in journaling and so forth. But very nice. So to have the real deal ephemera with some different receipts and various things, and this was a looks like a bus pass and a water taxi and so forth. Just really cool. So they were gone for a long time. It was really nice of them to share some of their cool stuff with me. That was really nice, and I really appreciate that. So it's nothing like having the real stuff when you like to use things like that in art journaling and so forth. So anyway, that was nice. So I really appreciate Lady True North sending that. That was cool. And then I wanted to show this magazine in case any of you guys are interested. This is the newest issue of Cloth, Paper, Scissors. It's a fun issue. This is their Christmas issue, and it has things about, this is working with paper clay and alcohol ink cityscapes by Kathy Taylor. And there's just all kinds of really cool, neat, inspiring. I think this is an article by Seth Apter. Yeah, this article is by Seth Apter. And a whole article about rust dyeing. So rust dyeing garments and all kinds of things. I know you can rust dye garments. You can rust dye paper. So you can do a lot of cool stuff with rust. I've not done much with that. And this is an article by Jane Davenport. And it's all about using one color, creating with one color, looking at color and variations. So these are all pretty much the same color, but using different things like Sharpie marker, pan pastel, Liquitex ink, golden fluid acrylic, Derwent pencil, and Winsor Newton watercolor. So anyway, I think it's a magazine that I really enjoy having, and yeah, so I thought I would share that with you. You just saw it today, Xandra? Yeah. So in case any of you that are watching the recording don't know who I'm talking to, I'm recording this with a live chat. And so anytime that you'd like to join us, my normal stream time is 2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, Eastern. Why do I say it like that? Anyway, on Fridays. And so like I said earlier, don't have a big chat group here tonight because I got knocked off. So, okay. All right, just adjusting something for a minute. You're going to start art journaling again, Jess? Cool. Good. That's great. So the Nano Jumo is going on this month by Dawn Sokol. I don't know exactly if that's how you say her name or if it's Sokol. It's S-O-K-O-L. It's Dawn, D-A-W-N, S-O-K-O-L. And if you check out her blog, just Google her name and you'll find her blog. She does what's called Nano Jumo, and it's National Nonstop Journaling Month. N-A-N-O-J-O-U-M-O, Nano Jumo. And so she puts out a prompt every day, and I've never done it before, but I thought I'll try it this year. So I'm going to show you my progress. I think I'm 1 or 2 days behind, but hey, not bad. Oops. Get in the right place. Okay. Jess says she thinks she's going to start art journaling again, but she's not sure. Don't count on it. So what I've been doing is writing the prompts, and that as I was working on them, I've been writing them down in the front of the book here. This is a Dilutions journal. It's the 8x8 or 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 journal. And so that's what I've been working in. So I showed these last week, but I'll just run through them real quickly. This was the first day, which was Hello, My Name Is. And so that was my page for that day. These are some Dina Wakley stencils and just a lot of grungy looking stuff. This one, she had like a single rose on like a journal page or something. And so you were kind of left to your own, kind of your own interpretation. Yeah, I like it too. Hi, Teresa. Yeah, I really like the 8x8. It's a nice format, and it's interesting to work in this size. So I've been doing also the Deepak Chopra and Oprah meditations this month, which are right about the same, I think they're a day apart from the Nano Jumo. And so it's all about beliefs. And so that was kind of what I incorporated together. These are roses that my dad took pictures of. These are some of his roses, and he took pictures of them. And so I had color slides that I was able to scan into the computer so that I could use the images. And so that's what I did. So I kind of combined both the belief meditations and the Nano Jumo. Hi, Ella. And this was the next day, which is not part of the Nano Jumo this year at all, but I just got my years mixed up. This was from a totally different year. And after I got it done, I went back to see what what was the next prompt, and couldn't even find this. And I went, what in the world did I do? I was on the wrong year, but I liked it anyway. So that put me another day off. So on this one, I just combined 2 days into one. And so it was stars and what was the other one? I'm really not. That was the other one. So it was 2 prompts. I'm really not and stars that I put into one. So this says I'm really not limited. I reach for the stars and grab them. And what I was doing here too was kind of using I've been experimenting with different color combinations from Design Seeds. Hey, CB, welcome. I'm trying again. The entire area, our entire area lost the internet somehow. I don't know who did what, but anyway, they got us back on, but it was a couple hours anyway. So playing around with some different color combinations. This one was using, the prompt was admit, and she used a house, and just showing that on the blog post. And so I thought, okay, well, so I played around with the idea of a house and admitting people into my house. So I did some journaling behind a little door about my feelings about that and my home. So this is where the next week started. So this is the prompt scribble. And so that's what I did. I scribbled. I used the Dina Wakley Scribbly Birds on text paper. This is a stamp that I carved. This is and I know you probably can't see it very well, but this is a scribbly heart from Tim Holtz, a die cut that I cut out of some leftover jelly print, leftover papers and stuff. And behind this is some writing, and I'll show you up close what that looks like. This is the writing back here. Sorry, I got too much stuff in my way here, right here. The writing in the background, this is from the guy that I used to work for, Warren, that some of you might remember. And his writing is scribbly. It's totally scribbly. Thanks, Ella. So I rescued some of that when I was working for him out of the trash. And so I thought, this is the perfect place to put some of his writing. And then I journaled around the outside edge. And so that's what I did on that one. This one, the prompt was the way to, let's see, is that it? Let me look. The way to. So this was this page, the way to. And so I just wrote the way to what I want is through my creativity. And these are jelly print papers on deli paper. You love the Warren stories. Hi, Ashley. Come on in. So this has got texture paste and just stuff and leftover stuff in the background and so forth. So just playing with stuff. And this one was list 5 hot things. And so I used a color combination that was hot, and I used modeling cream, which is what the red and the kind of bronze color is. That's through a stencil. And I boiled it, for lack of a better term, I boiled it with the heat gun. So you can see the texture from it, you know, where I purposely overheated it and, you know, puffed that modeling cream up. Modeling cream is a Viva Decor product. And so you can see the texture you get by using the heat gun. I used the embossing heat gun, you know, so I could really direct that paint, or direct that heat. So that was that one. So those are the 5 hot buttons. That's what I chose to use. And the next day was the bucket list. And so this is my bucket list. The bucket is, well, first of all, in the background, there's dictionary paper, and this has bucket, and up here it says list on the other one. But this was a bucket that I printed offline, off of the internet. It was a free image, and I cut it out. So I cut out that much of the bucket and pasted it, glued it in, and then I did a paint over collage technique. So I just used acrylic paint and painted it, finished the handle and the rest of the wire handle. And then from the bucket, I cut the lip of the bucket and glued that to the next page. And then, so there's flowers in the bucket, and then this is my bucket list. So I can pull it out and use it, you know, add to it anytime I want, and then that becomes my, kind of my hidden journaling kind of thing. Yeah. Hi, Sophia. And this was, let's see, what was this called? This just was 3 houses. It was a picture of 3 houses, and so this is what I used. I just did some acrylic. These are the Diane Reevely paints that I put on very thinly, and then finger painted some clouds. This is a stamp that I carved. So this is a stamp I carved a long time ago. And I stamped it on some leftover jelly print paper and then cut out bits and pieces of it. And then just did some wonky houses with paint. These are all Dilutions paints, some wonky flowers, and I just doodled on it. And then I put the quote, "Home is not just a place where you happen to be born, it's the place where you become yourself." And so that was what I did for that. The prompts are really open to interpretation, and so it's fun, but it has enough to kind of get me jump started, and so that's kind of a neat thing to do too. Hi, Jeannie. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out so I could get back on. So we'll see how things go. And so this day was doodling, and I think it was just called Doodle. That was the name of this. So I used the technique that I learned in class with Carla Sondheim a couple of years ago. And she does these funny faces. I'll show you more of the examples. But instead of doing them in watercolor, I used the Inktense bars. And I used that. So if I decided to go around it with anything else that was, you know, water reacting, you know, where it would reactivate watercolor, it wouldn't do it on this because the Inktense would be permanent. Oh, cool, Sophia. That's great. Hi, Pam. Welcome, welcome. And anybody watching the recording, just to say it again, I am recording this live, so, you know, I'm talking to live people. So these are my funky friends. So I doodled my funky friends. And then that's as far as I've gotten. So that's the end of that. But I thought I would show you the faces that I did in the class originally with Carla Sondheim. I think it's called Faces 101, I believe is the name of her class. So I recommend her class. You end up doing a ton of stuff. I mean, this is only a portion of stuff that I did, and it's all different kinds of faces. Some of them are done, like this is done with the dropper, and like the dropper part of the ink bottle. So using just the dropper of the ink bottle and drawing with that, that's what this is. Some of them are left-handed. Some of them are meant to be single line drawings where you never lift your pen up off the surface. This is done with the dropper. I used a lot of the same image. I'm sure you can tell that. Like this one was done left-handed, I think. Yeah, left-handed. So, I really like the ink dropper. Can you tell? How are the Santas coming along? I've taken a break for the last couple of weeks, maybe the last 10 days, and so I got to get back on the Santas. So they have had a bit of a break. So I'm ready to get back on them again. The HowToGetCreative.com website, the membership website classroom area has been on hiatus for the last few days, and so I kind of got a break, and they got a break, and so I'm ready to get back after everything again. So these are some of the faces that I did. These were done with watercolor, and again, this is in Carla Sondheim's class, Faces 101, I believe. And so these are from her faces, or from that class, and you just drop watercolor and just kind of random shapes on the watercolor paper, and then go back after it's completely dry and just see what it is that you see in the blob of watercolor. And so that's what all these are. And so I've taken those and just played around with them. It's a fun exercise, and you get some real interesting, funny characters. And so that's how I came up with those doodly faces in my NaNoJumo page that was just doodling, because to me that's what that is. It's just doodling. And then this little book I did, I'm not sure if I did this on stream or if I just did it and I showed it on stream. I can't remember exactly. And it seems like I have another one, but I can't find it. But this little teeny book is a, I don't know exactly how you pronounce it, do-si-dos book, where you have different books that fit in the cover. And so this is just the same exact process. So this is just a bunch of watercolor blobs, and then I added to them. So these are Found Relatives. So that's the title of this. So I'll go through these kind of quickly. This is Aunt Lou, Cousin Corinne, Third Cousin Poindexter. Let me use a different camera so you can really see them up close, in case you want to see the detail. Okay, there we go. So there's Aunt Lou, Cousin Corinne, Third Cousin Poindexter, Great Aunt Lottie. She's a character, isn't she? Cousin Bill, Auntie Millie, and Second Cousin Sonny. Uncle Bob and Cousin Tom. Aunt Mary and Uncle Stan, and Great Uncle Fred. And Butch, second cousin twice removed, because nobody wants to claim him. Okay, then on the other side, turn the book over. And on the other side, this is also a technique by Carla Sondheim that is from her mixed media drawing. Is it Drawing for Mixed Media Artists? I've kind of forgotten the name of it. and I didn't pull the book out. But anyway, they're just blobs of watercolor, different colors, and just blobs. And then after it dries, then you come back and you find what you see on the page. So this is Welcome to My World. And so I just captioned all of them, standing on my critter on a sunny day. So, because that's just what you see. They're just made up blobby animals. Just taking a walk. Feeling fancy. He's not either imaginary. He's for reals. Now, I don't know which one is not imaginary, but there you go. Green apple, good. Don't ask me. I have no idea what I am. Two-faced? No way. So if you look at this, you can see a profile or you can see an entire face, depending on how you look at it. Angelia Thompson does a lot of that. You should check out her blog. Please, 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 please. Señor takes a siesta. War paint. And it is not a rug. So those are just bits of watercolor. And just see what you see in them. Some of them are people, some of them are made up animals, or whatever. And then the last one, the last book in the middle, this was for Inkwell. And she was here earlier when I showed this earlier. And because she thinks I never do any scrapbooking kinds of things, which I really don't. But this is a book about the boys, the sponsors, Charlie and Chance. Okay, so my buddy over here, they're in the window, all piled up on each other because that's how they are most of the time. We love sunshine. And this they were taking baths in unison. Hi, Trina. They were literally taking baths in unison. So they looked at me, stopped and looked at me at exactly the same time, like, could we have some privacy, please? And these are Siamese cats joined at the butt, which is what they look like. They came in from outside that day. And just the door is right behind them. I mean, they literally made it inside the house and just passed out. And then at one point, they decided to test out the bathroom sink. So Charlie took it over first, and he was there for a while. And then a little bit later, Chance chased him out, and so he got in the sink. So they've never done it again, but that day they decided they were going to take turns taking custody of the sink. And this was the day that Chance decided to get in the middle of my art journal. And so he just piled up on the table and he's just looking at me like, hello, hello, the cat, pay attention to the cat. Hi, Jan. And Charlie squeezed himself into a basket that's not nearly big enough for him, but he's laying in there. And this is a raccoon that I painted a long time ago. And he says, I do not look like him. I do not. So he's trying to tell everybody he does not look like that raccoon. And let's see, a couple more pages. Coffee and art, anytime. So Chance was finishing, I don't know if he was finishing the coffee or if I just caught him doing that. I'm not really sure. But he was having coffee and art, anytime. And this basket that he's sitting in, it's actually a bowl. That's a bowl that I made out of clothesline. It's wrapped with fabric and stitched on the sewing machine. And I thought it was really cool. And I had it sitting on the table deciding what I was going to do with it, what I was going to put in it. And before I could really decide, I had just put some of his toys in there. Before I could really decide, Chance put his fat butt in there. And so I captioned it, sometimes I sits and thinks, sometimes I just sits. Because that sometimes is what he does. He sits in that bowl. Sometimes he tries to lay in it with his whole body. Sometimes he lays in it with his front half. And you just never know what he's going to do with it. But he likes it. He claimed it as his own. So, of course, if he claimed it, that it was his then. So this is the day I'd gotten something in a priority mailbox and I just dropped it on the floor. So they squeezed their fat bodies into this box. It's a priority mailbox. And so I said, we need a vacation. Ready at Inky Well? Yeah. So they're ready to go see Inky Well. So yeah, so there you go. So that is just a little tour through the found relatives and my journal. Okay, so real quickly, before we get cracking here on what I was planning to do today, we're going to take a look and talk about Cheryl Con. It's SHERRILLKAHN, Cheryl Con. And so I'm going to show you some of her books. And give me just a second. I've got links for you. Oh, one other thing I wanted to tell you, and I forgot to put this in earlier. The ornaments that we did last week, the polymer clay ornaments, if you want to go look at the blog, there's the address. That blog post, there's a picture on there, one picture of the ornaments done in wood, and the other picture, the ornaments are done with the polymer clay. So you can see the side-by-side comparison because I got them all done. So yay me. And any of you watching the recording, I will have the links in the description box below. If you're watching on if you're at the blog or at the website, HowToGetCreative.com, and you're seeing the video there, if watching the recording there, there's a description box below that shows you all the whatever I'm talking about. If I've mentioned links, I try to always put them there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you click the show more below the video, then that'll expand the box and you can see it there. Okay, so that's that. Nope, wrong link. Okay, so I'm going to put in some links here for these books that I'm going to talk about. If you are interested in seeing any of them, then there are 3 different ones. Then you can click on any of those links and you'll be able to find out more information about them. Now, these are not new books by any means. They were published. Let me see if I can get you some dates. 2001. So they're a few years old. So some of them, you might be able to find some deals on them. Okay. All right. Hi, Betty. Okay, Sophia, good to see you. So we're talking about Cheryl Con, and she is very, very creative. These books are great for mixed media. She does all different kinds of things with resists, and she does things with pop-up sponges and sponge painting, and she has a very tribal kind of feel about what she does. And if that's not your thing, if that's not what what you like or what you're interested in, you can still get so much from her books. She does things with cloth. Her color sense is wonderful, but things are very tribal in the way that they look. So, hi, Carol. Anyway, so this is this one. This one is creating with paint. This one is creative embellishments. And I don't know if she has more than 3 or not, but these are the 3 that I have. And these are great. She shows different ways of working with the techniques. So she has a weaving gallery. And shows about weaving different kinds of of strips and so forth. This is a lot of fun to do. I've done some of that in the past with paper, and it's fun to combine paper and fabric both. Let's see what else. So different kinds of wrapped cordings and using those. I've done that a lot where you can use them for trims, for you know, I use them like to make them kind of like a piping. Hi, Carol. Paper and fabric motifs. She works with, this is sheet protectors, sheet protector embellishments, shrink plastic accents, Tyvek, working with different kinds of Tyvek techniques. So this is done with Tyvek. So there's just all kinds of cool things that she shows, you know, and she works with, you know, some of the different tools that we have. She's turning that into a sticker, embossed metal, making metal wire beads, making dolls, clay. Here's using the Activa clay roller system that we're all crazy about. That's not a new thing, that's for sure. Different kinds of beads. So anyway, that's another one. And then the third one that I have is this one, Creative Paint, Print, Stitch, Stamp, Embellish, Mixed Media. And I don't know which one of these is the newest or oldest. This was 2010, so this is one of the newer ones. And in here she's got just, you know, lots of different things. This is an interesting one. This is using cosmetic cotton pad embellishments. So cosmetic cotton pads like you use on your face, and she's using those in her artwork. Nothing is safe. Nothing. Just all kinds of techniques and eye candy and lots of inspiration for lots of different things that you can do. You can use in so many different ways, but these are great resource books. So, hi Sherry. So these are great resource books. And Trina says Tyvek and alcohol ink is very cool. Yeah, absolutely. Hey Travis, welcome back. We're trying again. So, what we're going to do, and this is where we got cut off earlier, except I did it a lot faster this time. What we're going to do is, this is based on an old Somerset Studio magazine. And this was an article by Sherrill in this. This is a 2001 or 2002 magazine. And so this is Cheryl Con's work, and so what we're going to do is do something that's loosely based on the idea here of taking an image and making it into a little shaped book. Now, I know that she's produced rubber stamps. I didn't decide to do this soon enough to try to get any of them. I don't know whether she is still producing and selling rubber stamps, because I know she had some personal issues going on in her life. Her company is Impress Me, I believe. Let's see. I am not seeing it right off, but I think it's Impress Me. If you just Google Cheryl Con, you'll come up with her website and you can check it out. But anyway, I didn't start soon enough to get anything, try to get anything from her. So what I did was I looked at what she had used, and then I just loosely drew an image that was based on, something similar to what her artwork was, what it looked like. So what I did is I'm using this size Speedy Carve, and give you that. So if you want to look at that, you're welcome to do that. So there's the Speedy Carve that I'm made the stamp from. And these are the tools that I used to do the carving. And I'm going to explain to you what I did and how I got there from here. So I took a piece of paper. Actually, I just traced around this. This is 4 inches by 6 inches. So I just traced around it on a piece of paper. So I had the rough opening shape. And then I folded it in half. And I just sketched out a shape that was, you know, an angel-like kind of shape, something that was similar to what Cheryl had in that she was using in that article, but it was not, you know, identical to what she was doing, of course. And then I just traced it on the second half, so I had my whole image complete. And it was a little big. When I got finished, it was a little big for the size. I don't know if this is the one that's a little big. No, one of the other ones was a little bit big. And so I put it on my scanner that has a sizing function, and I reduced it to 95%. So that worked quite well. So once I did that, I took my image, the one that I liked. So this is the one that I liked. This was the size I liked. And I used a soft lead pencil. It was like a 6B pencil, and I went over all the lines with the 6B pencil. So I just drew on top of my copy lines, and then I took it on my Speedy Carve. So you have to imagine that this is out of the package, and I just laid it down here on the stamp and then just rub. And if you just rub it with your finger, it will transfer the graphite right onto the Speedy Carve, and then you can start carving. So that's what I used here. So this is the tool that you use when you work to carve stamps. They are sharp. You got to be careful with them, Jeannie. You do indeed. The handle is self-storing for all the little, I don't know what you call these. I should have looked up all the terminology, but it's all the little carving tips. They're different shapes, and there's also one that is like a knife, like a X-Acto blade, and they store in the handle. And then to change the tip, you just unscrew the collar here, and that allows the tip to pull out. And the hardest part of the whole thing is finding exactly what part of this little gizmo in here you're supposed to stick the tip down in, the cutting blade. And they are sharp, and you don't want to jam them into your hand. And so you always want to use the tool to cut away from you. And yeah, that you do want to do that. So what I did is I wanted the lines to be left. And so I went around both sides of my drawn line first to give me kind of the buffer between the line that I wanted to leave and the bulk of the carving material. So I did that. Then I switched to a tip that was wider, had a wider scoop on it, and then I started scooping out the material around. And then every so often I would use my black ink pad and test it. And so that's why you see the marks. And if there are black marks showing up where you don't want them, then what you want to do is come in here and clean out more of the material. And then I just cut off all the extra rather than have that be in my way. So that's what I did. That's how I got the stamp. So any questions about that from anybody? It doesn't take long to do it. And as I said, I mean, it takes a while. That's why I'm not carving it on the stream. It takes a little while to do it, but it doesn't take like forever. It's not a real labor-intensive process, and it doesn't take a lot of muscle to do it. It's pretty easy carving. But I like this carving material. There's several carving materials that you can find. This is the one that I happen to prefer. So, thanks, Ella. What did you start off with? I'm not sure what you mean, Teresa. What I started off with, you'll have to give me more information. I'm not understanding the question. I'm sorry. I started with a piece of Speedy Carve and a drawing. and the carving tool. That's what I started with. Is that what you mean? Give me more, ask me more specifically. Sorry. It's not my normal stream time. So my brain is a little tired. Hang on just a minute, guys. Ah.
I'm just checking to see if you are or not coming.
Sorry, guys, I got a phone call that I had to take. Okay. Barb, where do you find the material? The carving material? I'm sorry, the chat has enough of a lag that sometimes it's, by the time I see the question, it's hard to know exactly what everybody's asking. The carving material, you can either order it, so there's a link there, or the other thing you can do is check your local craft stores, because sometimes you can find it there. Okay. Can you use scissors like Tim Holtz to cut off the extra areas? I would not do that. What I would do is I would use the a craft knife. I don't think your scissors, I've never tried it with scissors. I don't think I would try it with scissors. I would just use a craft knife to cut it. That's what I used. Let's see, what else? Okay, just looking for questions here. Okay. All right. So if you have any other questions, be sure you put them in caps, and do remember that there's a lag in the chat. And so sometimes you got it. Seems like you're being redundant with asking the question maybe, but by the time I see it, sometimes I need a little more reference. So anyway, so thank you. I don't mean to be dumb. It's just sometimes it's just the timing thing. The timing thing. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with this. I took the stamp and I stamped it on, I took a folded piece of paper. Just, I don't know that I saved one. Yeah, here. So I just took a folded piece of paper. It's actually cardstock, okay? And I just folded it and I stamped the stamp on here. And then decided, I put it on the cardstock like this, right? And I was just going to extend this out to the fold. And on this particular one, I decided that that was just too, it was, there was too much room. I didn't like it. So I redid it. You know, it was subtle, but there's like a 1/2 inch difference. How do you get the short web address? The short web address is a link that I create. So those are the carving tools. Yeah. Okay. So that was how I did that. And then I cut around it just so that I had the shape of what it was that I wanted to create. So I have a little pattern to work with. Okay. And because I intended for this to be pretty much the same size, the same dimensions on both sides, you know, kind of as close to mirror image as I could get it. That way what was on the back was going to work with what was on the front. But the only way that that's going to work, you know, the only way that that's going to work is if your image is pretty much the same on both sides. Okay? All right. So that was my pattern. And so this, again, is based on this article from an old stamping Somerset Studio magazine. But I'm just making it up as I go along. All right? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the stamp, and on watercolor paper, hot press watercolor paper is what I'm using because it's nice and smooth. I'm going to use archival black ink, and I'm going to stamp it. And so I could use this one if I needed to. It didn't stamp real well, but you know, it wasn't too bad. So I'm just going to ink up the stamp. And I don't mind if some of the carving marks show, but ink it well. You could use Stays On, you could use Memento. And I'm going to put this on here. And try not to move it around. And then you get the image. Now there's a little spot here, and so I'll go back later and I'll fill that in. So there's one. Here's another piece of the watercolor paper. So I'm going to ink the stamp again and stamp it again. And hopefully we'll get it on here where it will work. It should do it. If not, we have an extra, so okay, so that was a pretty good impression. Okay, and then if you want to clean this off, just clean it with a soft rag, you know, and or paper towel or whatever. I usually, with these, I just leave them. I don't worry about it. Okay, so I've got some black ink around the edge, which I'm not going to worry about. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of heat to make sure that we have most of the ink set here. And because this is handmade, you know, nothing is going to be exactly. You guys talking about me? I think I'm being teased in the chat. Is that the one I want? No, this is the one I want. This is the one I want. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to cut these out, and I want to leave a margin beyond the about 1/8 of an inch. But remember, how much you leave on one is about, you want to try and leave that margin on the other one, because you're creating a front and a back cover for the book. Now, anytime I do this kind of stuff on stream, you know, you never do your best work on stream. I hate to say that. At least I don't. Maybe some of you guys do. And this is 140-pound hot press paper that I'm working on, so it's got some stiffness, which again you want because you're working on, you're creating a book cover, a shaped book. Okay, so I'm going to cut the other one out as well. So we're going to try to get 2 of these the same. So I'm going to look at that one. Okay, and now you can get really picky about this, and you can just make absolutely sure that your stamp is totally and completely symmetrical, mirror image from one side to the other, which would be ideal. And then you can kind of compare the 2 sides and go, okay, you know, doesn't look too bad. This side needs a little trim maybe. And you can even things up a little bit if you want to. So we have our 2 little book covers, front and back. And this is what we're going to be going for. Now this one is not completed. You can see part of it here. So this is what we're doing. We're making a little book that's shaped. Okay. So this is the front and back cover, and the last few pages on the back have not been shaped yet. So you can kind of get the idea of what we're doing. Trina. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to play around with it, and we're going to color it. And I'm going to use a couple of things. I'm going to use my big brush pens and my I have some small ones. These are the smaller pen, and these are, they're called Pit Artist pens, but they have the brush tip on them. Okay, so they have a brush tip, and those are great, as are the big brush pens, which have the brush tip, but it's big fat tip. Both are fine. The ink is permanent when it's dry. And so we'll use, I'm just going to get an assortment of colors out here, and we're just going to go for it and see what kind of mischief we can get into here. Let's see. And we'll do a red. Okay, so that gives us some colors to play with. Oh, and then I need a black. So I'm going to use my black. My black is well worn. This is the black brush tip. It is well worn. I don't think you can probably see that. It's begun to fray and split a little bit. Okay, so here is, you know, what we're going to do now is we're just going to kind of play around with it. So you see how I've added extra lines and just various motifs and things, embellishments. And so I'm just going to kind of keep that off to the side, and I'm going to take the black brush pen. You could use a regular black, like the size S tip if you wanted to. You could do whatever. I just don't mind having the bigger tip. And just add some more symbols and some more decoration here and there. So I'm just going to fill in some of these. So you just get kind of that interesting tribal sort of look about it. And then if you want to, whatever you want to do up here. And we'll do the same thing on this side. On the other one, I just did straight stripes. But you can do anything that you'd like to do, okay? So you get the idea, right? So we'll do something similar on this one. It doesn't have to be the same. It could be the same or it could be similar. So we'll make this one a little different. But you want to do something, when you're doing this kind of thing, you want to use pens that are permanent because you're going to be coming back over it with paint in some areas if you choose to. If you don't choose to use paint, that's fine. Okay, so we have some decoration on that. Up here, let's just change the patterning a little bit. Just for something different. But there's no way that I was going to carve all those lines in that stamp. So that's why I did it this way. That's true. Got to watch the circles and dots. That's true. Okay, and so at that point, then you just start filling in areas that you want with the color. And then the other colors that I have that are fun to play with are the Lumiere Paints. And the link that I just put in there is for this Exciter pack, it's called. Now, sometimes your craft stores will have these. And other times, if you don't have a craft store where you can get them, then you can order. And that link will take you to more information about them. But these are the Lumiere paints, and this is a great way to try the Lumiere paints, which are metallic. They're actually intended to be used with fabric, but they work great on paper. And so you get, in this little pack called the Exciter pack, this one has 2, 4, 6, this has 8 colors in it, and they're pearlescent or metallic, and they're just great paints. And this little bit, these little bitty containers, which hold a half ounce, are amazing with how much stuff you can paint with these. So if you want to try them, I recommend the Exciter pack to try them and see how they work. So let's take one of these and let's just, which one do we want to use? We'll use this one. And let's do some coloring, and then we'll do some painting also. Okay, so we're going to just start coloring in some of the different areas. And I'm mostly going to concentrate on the shapes, the small shapes. And I kind of bounce them around within the figure so that I try not to use just one color one time. I try to use different, different areas with the same color. So I try to have it repeat 3 times within the figure as opposed to just once or twice. I just find it's more balanced that way. But that's my preference. That might not be your preference, but that's what I like. And of course, you could have them show up more than 3 times. But this is just kind of mindless stuff. Now, you wouldn't have to use the pens to do it. You could use colored pencils. You could use a lot of different kinds of things. It's just kind of, this is what I like. And it's easy. And who doesn't like it to be easy? So what are you guys working on tonight? Are you just chilling out? Or are you actually doing something while you're watching? How about those paints on jelly plate? I'm sure they would be great on the jelly plate. I would need bigger quantities to use on the jelly plate rather than the little exciter pack, but you can get them in jars, in a larger quantity easily. So yeah, I'm sure they would be fine on a jelly plate. I just don't have them in the larger quantities. I have a few that I bought from somebody else, but they're drying up on me. They've been around for years, and so I'm losing some of the, they're getting kind of clumpy, the way acrylic paint will do. And so I haven't actually used them on a jelly plate, but there's no reason that you couldn't. Working up the energy to organize. There you go. Okay, so let's do for the stripes up here. Let's do some purple. And this is kind of, you kind of get into that kind of mindless doodle kind of thought process when you get into doing things like this. So this is when it's nice to just, have something going on the computer, watching a YouTube video, listening to a recording for Ustream or a YouTube live, something like that going on. Then you can just doodle and there's no rush, there's no anything, you're just enjoying the process, right? And I guess we need to probably do this purple up here at the top. That'll work. But when you use the big brush markers, it really makes filling in things like this nice and easy, because they fill a lot of space very quickly. And these are permanent. The Tombow markers are great. They're not permanent, but you know, unless you're gonna take your book out in the rain. Okay, and then I'm going to use this lime green, light green it's called. And then we're going to switch to paint and add some paint. Yeah, the coloring books are all the rage, aren't they? Everybody's got color books. I guess I was ahead of the curve when I did the mandala book, huh? If any of you aren't familiar with that, it's an ebook that you can print out your own designs. They're a lot. I think there were, it seemed like I did 24, 25, I don't know, mandalas that they're just the outlines, and then you can turn them into the mandalas, you know, adding all the design work and stuff that you like. Okay, so what I'm going to do out here on the outside, actually I'm going to use the smaller nib. Is I'm going to make this a checkerboard. So I'm just adding the lines around the outside. Maybe I'll do the fatter one. I think it'll be better if I do the fat one. Yeah, this will be better. So I'm just going to do lines like this all the way around so that it has, I'll fill in and make a checkerboard out of it. Now, when you do this, I learned this trick from Rach. Let me get around here. When you get to close to the bottom, back where you started, actually is what I should say. When you get close to the point where you began, don't finish putting in your lines. Just stop short and give yourself a little extra space in case you need to kind of adjust your spacing at the end. And you'll see what I mean once we start coloring this in. So I'm going to stop and leave this extra little bit of space in case I need to add another space in there. Tombows are helped by a little hairspray, and even got it to work with collaging. Worked great. Good. Barb, I missed how you got the design on the Speedy Carve material. I drew the design. I sketched it out on paper. Find my thing right here. So I sketched it out on paper and made sure it was the right size. And then I went over it with the lines with a very soft lead pencil. I used like a 6B lead pencil. Just went over every single line. Then I put it down on top of the raw Speedy Carve, meaning it's not in plastic. Put it down there and just rub it with your hand. Just rub over it and the lines will transfer right onto the Speedy Carve. Yeah, they transfer right onto it. It's great. Easy peasy. Okay, so what we have is a dirty palette here. So the least I can do is give you a clean palette to look at. And I'm going to use the color Halo Pink Gold. You're welcome. Hi, Jan. So this is Halo Pink Gold, and it doesn't take much, I will tell you. So you can always add more, but there's no point in wasting it. So let's get out some Halo Pink Gold, and let's use some Pearl Turquoise. So I'm going to use a little bit of that. You can see I'm just using little teeny dabs. This one is Halo Violet Gold. And the other one I'm using is Metallic Gold. And when you buy these things, use them. Don't buy them and let them sit, because they will, like any acrylic paint, if it sits long enough, it's going to get, you know, old. So you don't want to do that. You want to use them. Okay. So I have a container with water in it, and then I have some paintbrushes. And as usual, I'm going to keep one as my cleanup brush, and then I'm going to use another one as soon as I find it here. Another one is my painting brush. So, any questions so far? If you got questions, put them in caps, okay? All right, so my cleanup brush, I'm just going to dampen with water just so I have it ready in case I slop on the black lines, which I probably will. So I'm going to use the Halo Pink Gold, and I'm going to paint in her face. And this is watercolor paper, and so it works really nicely. It will accept the paint easily. And I'm using the angled shader brushes, which I happen to like. You could use whatever kind of brushes you're comfortable with. Okay, so that puts in kind of a skin tone for her face. We're not going to put features on her face because we're just not. I'm going to use the same color. I'm going to fill in this section right in here. And I'm not going to be too picky tonight about keeping it off the black lines. You can always go back. After the paint is thoroughly dry, you can come back and you can actually put some black right back over. Now, since I said that, I've got to clean this up because I got a little crazy with the paint here. Okay, good enough. All right, and then out here in the outer edge, I think we might use that Halo Pink Gold as one of the colors out there in the outer edge. So for the rest of this, maybe we'll use this turquoise color, and we'll fill in the rest of this. But these colors have this beautiful either metallic or pearlescent effect, and they're absolutely lovely paints to work with. The texture of them or the consistency of them is beautiful. The colors are beautiful. You can use them on fabric. It's a great, they're great paints. They really are. And if you just use a really thin coat, it dries very quickly on your paper. So I'm not using a very heavy coat at all. I just saw Jan's comment about being terrible about buying and hoarding. One of the things that's hard is when you buy things and you forget that you bought them, you know? You got to use them. So hopefully you can see how pretty that is. I'll give you a real close-up here in a minute. after we get this done. Okay, good enough. So we have that. And I'm going to switch to a little round brush because it's going to be more controllable in these little tiny spaces. So we're going to use that. I'm going to go to I'm going to use the purple, the Halo Violet Gold. And I'm going to just fill in every other space. And just go all the way around. Now you don't have to follow that rule of it's got to be there 3 times. You don't have to follow that rule. It's just kind of a guideline of having it show up 3 times in whatever you're doing. Oops, wrong space. So if you screw up and put it in the wrong space, then if you get it quick enough, you can get some of it taken back out. If not, don't worry about it and you just paint over it with the next color. Okay. And you do have to kind of think about what you're doing, otherwise you can get yourself all messed up, getting things not where you intended for them to go. Ask me how I know. Okay, when you come around here to the bottom, where I've left that bigger gap, then I'll know exactly how to finish the checkerboard out so I don't end up with the wrong number of spaces. Saves you from having to count. Okay, so there we go with that much. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go, okay, that's going to be that color. Then we're going to do the lavender and then the other color and then the lavender and then the other color. Okay, and I think I'm going to have one more. We're going to find out. Yeah. So that way you can make an adjustment here at the bottom so you get the checkerboard to be complete, okay? All right. So then I'm going to fill in the alternate spaces. I'm going to use the gold color just because I think that would be pretty and I think it'll show up for you guys. So I'm just going to use a gold. And it really doesn't take very much to fill these in. So use a little brush and just fill them in. This gold, this particular gold is one of my favorite colors. I use this when I'm making dolls and I want to put a like a glow on the doll skin, you can do a wash using the this gold. And you can actually put it in a spray bottle, or you can spray the doll's skin, or you can paint it on the doll. It just gives it the most incredible, beautiful sparkle. It looks like some really expensive fabric when you do this, and you can just use plain old muslin and you can just get a great, beautiful effect. Okay, so you kind of get the idea here of what's going on. So I would do the same thing on the other cover. Color it, paint it, whatever you want to do. I like the combination of using the paints and the markers because it gives you the variety of the metallic and the pearlescent and the flat. And I like variety in what I do. Thank you, Sherry. And when it's completely dry, if you want to go back and you want to make the lines, you know, more intensely black, you just go back over the lines. But you want to make sure that everything is completely dry before you get that marker going. Because if the acrylic paint is not 100% absolutely bone dry, you're going to kill your marker. That is the law of markers. You will kill them dead. And markers do not like acrylic paint at all. Okay, so she's kind of a wild child. All right, got the idea. So before I lose this paint, I'm going to put what's left of this, I'm going to just put it in my journal because the colors are too good to lose, so we're going to stick them in a journal. So I'm just going to grab a page here. And a card, because I'm not going to paint the other cover on this one right now. So I'm just going to scrape them in here just so that way I've got something in this journal, and I've used the paint. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah, it works great for skin, that pink halo pink gold. Halo pink gold works really great for skin. Okay, now, if you want to further embellish these, you could use stickles, you could use those, the pearl, I forgot what the pearls are called, the Ranger pearls. I have these pearl pens. I have one in black, I have one in turquoise, and I have one in bronze. And these are a Viva Decor product, and they are really nice. Okay, and so this one is bronze, and I'm going to these have been sitting around a little bit, so they are a little stiffer than they should be. But they do make a nice little round dot. And then if you want to, you can tap it from the back. Sometimes that'll settle out the dots. Okay, this one is turquoise. We'll add a few little turquoise bits here. This one is a fresher one, and so it is going to come out with, I'll show you the difference in these in a minute. And it does take some time for these to dry, so you got to make sure that you don't stick your hand in this. You got to put this someplace. It's just like working with stickles. You got to put it someplace to give it a chance to dry. So we're really going to embellish this one up just because I want you to be able to see. See how these work. So that first one that I have is a little, the bronze one is a little older. So it's a little stiffer in the tube. But they're easy to use, and they're really fun. You can go crazy dotting, let me tell you. You can go crazy. They also come in a glitter, and it's right, Jan. It is absolutely correct. She says that we're all a little stiffer as we age. It's entirely true. Okay, so let me clear the decks here a little bit. And I got stuff, lots of stuff on my table. Of course, that's the nature of the beast. You get all this stuff all over everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to get this, try not to stick my hand in it. Because what I want you to see is the dimension from the dots, okay? The turquoise is the fresher one, and so the dots settle down into these little pearl rounded tops. The other ones, the black is not quite as fresh, and it's a little, it has more of a Hershey Kiss type thing, and the bronze one is about the same. So you get the different dimensions on them. Yeah, you get the different dimensions. So in order for this to dry the way that you want it to dry, and that would be so that no one puts their hand in it, like me, then you want to put it someplace out of the way so no one has, or you don't get a cat foot in it. That would be the other option. So you want to put it out of your way, in a safe place to dry. Okay, so that's what I did, how I decorated my my little covers, although these don't have nearly as many dots on them. Okay, next thing I did is I took my cover, and we're going to pretend that this one is painted. So you got to use your imagination. Got to use your imagination here. And use a piece of cardstock. It could be whatever color you want. I'm going to use black. No kitty paws. That's right. And I'm going to use tacky glue because I find that it holds, and I find that it is good glue. And it rolls off your fingers. And that's good. So I've got a nice application of glue, and I'm just going to smear it out to the edges. So you could use whatever kind of glue that you like, but remember that this is going to be a book cover, and so you want it to have something that's not going to come apart. So I don't think I would use glue stick on something like this because I would be very hesitant that that would last. All right, so I'm going to put this down on cardstock. and get rid of the glue. Perfect Pearls, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Oh, I was using the Viva Decor pins, but the Ranger has some kind of a pearl applicator also. Yeah, there is a glitter. There's another one that's packaged just like this, but it's a glitter pen. So they're just exactly like that, but they're glitter. Glitter liner, it's called. So this is a glitter liner, and then these are the pearl pins that make the little round pearl shapes. Okay, so then what I do is I take this, because this is immediately going to want to buckle and warp the cardstock and the cover and all of that, even though this is watercolor paper. So what I do is I take this over and I put it someplace and put a heavy book on top of it, and then I put a heavy weight on top of it. I have some old antique irons that work great for weighting things. And then I let this completely dry. Okay? Once it's completely dry, then I come in and I cut this out. Again, cut the shape out again. So together we're going to pretend that this is completely dry. So we're all pretending together, right? So not only are you pretending that this is dry, you're also pretending that it is painted. Because I'm just walking you through the steps of how I created this little book. And maybe none of you will ever do this, but you might. So my intent is to cut it out right with the edge of the original, the stamped and colored one, that of course you're seeing in your imagination. But this is going to stiffen up the watercolor paper a little bit more by putting a layer of cardstock behind it. You could use watercolor paper if you want. You could put, anything that you want. And the reason that I do it one layer at a time is because I find it's more accurate to cut this way. I can get the edges to be more accurate. Rather than trying to cut through two thicknesses of paper. Sometimes that can really bother a person's hands. So then you kind of go back and true it up and see if there's any little places that you need to make the edges match. Okay, so we're all imagining that this is painted and that it's dry. And then you can go back and you can use your archival ink if you want to and ink around the edges, which is exactly what I did on this one, on the one that from the little book. I did ink around the edges. And then I also used some paint around the edges in a little bit. Okay, so far we're together, right? Right. All right, so here's my little book that I'm going to be playing with, that I'm going to be making, showing you the steps on. The cover is a piece of mixed media paper, Canson mixed media paper, that as I was doing some jelly plate printing, I was just cleaning off the brayer. And I love doing that on big sheets of the Canson mixed media paper because I get these beautiful combinations of colors that I wouldn't get any other way. So I'm cleaning the brayer off. And I do it on one side of the paper, then I open it up and do it on the other side of the paper. So I end up with this cool mixed media paper. I also have some pages that are just the plain white mixed media paper. And so we're going to play with those in a minute. But these are going to be the pages in my book. And so I'm going to nest these together. And there are 5 pages because I decided that that was a good number of pages to do. Okay, So the way that I determined my size, remember I created a little pattern back in the beginning. So I created my little setup to see if it was going to work. And so that is my pattern. And so I just decided that this book, the original covers, just so I knew how much to cut, I cut them out just slightly taller and slightly wider. Okay? I do like the covers too. I like the colors. Yeah. I'm glad you like them too. So I made it a little bit bigger, and then I just folded it in half. So I just did some pre-cutting just like that. All right. So I'm going to take this piece right here, and I'm going to glue it onto my cover. So this is just my pattern, my guide. So I'm going to put this on here and go, yep, I think that's where I want it. So I'm going to give myself a couple of lines, and I probably need to do this in something so you can see it. So we'll use a colored pencil. So I'm going to use a white Prismacolor pencil and give myself an outline. I don't have to do the whole thing, but I need to do enough. So when I pull it up, I have a guideline to go for, right? Okay, then this I'm going to glue right down onto my book like so. So this is my colored finished cover, and it's dry. Yeah, it's dry too. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But because we backed the original watercolor with a layer of cardstock, it thickens it up a little bit. And so you want to give it another good gluing. And you can use tacky glue. You could use Crafter's Pick. Those are my two preferred white glues for things like this that are thick. You could use other things, but these are my two preferred glues. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to smear out the glue all the way to the edges, just like so. So it's a nice even coat of glue, and the whole surface is covered in glue. If it doesn't all get covered, especially out to the edges, then you got problems trying to get things to adhere where you want them to be adhered. And that's no good if it doesn't stick where you want it. All right, so we're going to stick this on here. Like so. Okay, and the next step would be to put it under some books and let it dry, right? And you want to do the same thing to the back. So the trickiest part of the whole thing is trying to line up the front and the back so that this little angel lines up with the one on the back. But you know, they lined up pretty well on my book, so it's possible. If you start out with a stamp that is pretty symmetrical, you can pretty much get it. Okay. The nice thing about tacky glue is that it tacks up pretty darn quick. All right, so we got that. All right, now we're going to pretend a little bit more. We're going to pretend that we have the angel on the back. And if we did, then I would be cutting these one at a time. But since I don't have one back there, I'm going to cut them together. I'm going to cut the two pages together. So you're kind of having to just go with me on this, because I want you to get the idea. Just pretend. A lot of pretending in this stream. A lot of pretending. But it's just to kind of give you the idea. And any places where the scissors can't get in, you know, if this is too tight, you can always use your craft knife to go in and cut those little bitty spaces. Okay, now, so I don't get wild and cut something I don't want, I gotta cut this. So that I don't accidentally cut off more than I intend to cut off. And this one may be usable in the end, even though I've gone ahead and cut it this way. I may still be able to salvage it and put the other cover on the back. We'll see. Okay, so you kind of got the idea. Here we have the angel, and in our imagination the other one is on the back side, and I don't have another one. Well, here we'll so in our imagination the other one has already been attached to the back, so we now have the book covers. By the time you've done that, the covers are pretty sturdy. The angels are pretty sturdy. This is still a single layer of the mixed media paper, but it's going to be a pretty sturdy cover. Okay, so far so good. So in order to create our book, because it's shaped and because you can see that the edges, the leading edges kind of creep out on you, you have to kind of do some creative stitching and so forth. So I'm going to put this, even though these are way the wrong shape and way oversized and everything, I'm going to stick these inside my cover, inside my book, up just slightly from the bottom. So just a little bit up above the bottom. So the cover's just peeking out just a little bit, like so. And so that way I know, you know, what's going to go, what's going to go where, how it's going to fit. And I got to make sure I have enough room around my book covers to be able to shape the pages when I get this done. All right. So I'm going to make myself a mark here and open this up, and I'm going to measure with my ruler, my Tim Holtz ruler. As soon as I remember where I put it, here it is. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz ruler, and I'm going to measure that, and I'm going to see, you know, what is that distance, because it's going to vary depending on what distance I've left in here. So this is 3 1/8 inches. Okay, so 3 1/8 inches. So I'm going to open up my book to the center of my signatures, or my center of my pages, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to mark at 3 1/8 because that's how much room I have to work with. Okay, from here to here. And the beauty of the Tim Holtz ruler and any of the other centering rulers is there's 0 on one side, so you can look at this and you can find the center between the edge down here and the mark here. So, and you kind of got to pay attention here. Okay, so there's that. Okay, I gotta cipher for a minute. So there's that, and there's the half. Okay, is that gonna be it? All right, we're going for it. So I'm gonna mark the 0. So I'm gonna mark the center of it, and then I'm gonna come in to the about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of each side. So that's where my holes are going to be. And then I'm going to use a pokey tool. And because it's only 5 pages, I can get away with not using the book cradle. So I'm going to poke holes at the marks that I made. I'm going to poke all 5 pages at once. There's no need to get out a book cradle or a phone book or anything for this because they're not much. So I've marked and poked my holes. I'm going to put my cover back on. Slide the cover over. And then I'm going to go right through the holes that I put into the signature through my book spine. Okay, so we're good. And I'm just going to use a clothespin. You could use anything else to just hold the whole bit together. All right? So far, so good, everybody? You haven't heard cipher for a long time? Then you could stitch your book together with a variety of things. I'm going to use a tapestry needle and I'm going to use wax linen thread. You could use embroidery floss. You could use pearl cotton. You could use lots of different things. I'm going to use wax linen because that's what I like to put my books together with. And to know exactly how much thread you need 3 times the width or 3 times the length of your spine. So there's 1, 2, 3. So that's exactly how much I need. But I want to do more in case I want to do, you know, put on beads or whatever. So I'm just going to double that. That way, if I want to do beads later or, you know, other dangly kinds of things, I've given myself plenty of room to work with. So, and this needle is too fat. I have a whole assortment of blunt pointed needles. Okay, so thread your needle with your wax linen thread. And then I'm going to start from the outside of the book. I'm going to start at the top. And if nothing's moved, which it always does, if nothing is moved, it should go right into the holes. And if everything moves, which it always does, you just kind of go in here and line everything back up or put them in one hole at a time. When you're trying to do this on stream and you're trying to do it under a camera, of course, things don't cooperate with you. So pardon me while I make this look very awkward to you. Okay, so get the needle all the way through the top hole, coming from the outside in, and leave yourself a nice long tail. Okay, then I'm going to go into the middle hole. Let's see, is that what I want to do? Go in the middle, out, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go into the middle hole. Then I'm going to come through the bottom hole. There's about 1,000,001 different ways of stitching books together. I'm going to come back through the middle hole. So this is just one way to do it. Unthread your needle because you're done with that. Tighten, just kind of snug your threads up a little bit. Don't get wild because this is paper you're dealing with. And then you're going to come up here and you're going to tie your threads together up here at the top hole. And that completes the stitch here. Where did my... Hello, where did my keypad go? I know I'm looking at it, but I don't know where I put it. Hold on just a minute, everybody. Right in front of me, like I said. Okay, so what we did is we came from, get all this jazz out of the way so you can see. Come from the top into the cover and into the middle, okay? The middle of the book. It's in the top hole. Then we went out through the middle hole to the outside, okay? Then we came back into the bottom hole, right down here. So we came through the bottom. And then I went back out through the middle one more time. So that's how this thread tail got here, and this is the starting thread tail. Thanks, Jeannie. Okay, so we did that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tie these together up here at the top hole, and that will complete the other stitch. So it looks like it is 2 stitches on the outside. So that's how we're going to do that. Okay. Yeah, it was right in front of my face. I just couldn't see. As my mom used to say, I couldn't see for looking. All right, so we're going to come up here and we're going to tie this at the top hole. And then that way it gives you the opportunity to add dangles if you wish. So I do a square knot like so. And then that gives you the 2 stitches up here. It completes the stitches on your spine. Okay? All right. So now you have these nice long threads that you can put dangles on or whatever you want. But by having them at the top hole, if you want to, you can move them up out of your way when you're using your book. You could reverse the whole process and have the dangles at the bottom of the book if you'd rather have that. It's just all a matter of whatever you'd like. All right. So at that point, you've got your book put together. Now you need to start shaping the pages. And so that's where we're going to come back to this book. So I shaped the pages one at a time, okay? And you can see when the book is open, you can see how the pages kind of creep out. But if the book is closed, they don't creep very much. And so that's why you got to shape them one at a time because of the nature of the book. So I've done exactly this same process. I did the front pages, and now I'm going to do the back pages. So I'm going to show you what I did. One at a time, I took the cover and I laid it on the first page, and then I drew around. So we're going to pretend that's what we have. So the book is closed when you do this. Okay, and you open it up, and there you go. There is your guide to cut on. Now I do them one at a time, and I cut inside that line just a little bit. And go from whatever direction you need to go in order to make it easier for you to cut. And I am not worried about saving paper when it comes to this because I sized it pretty carefully in the beginning, so I'm not going to end up with a lot of waste. But I just found as I was working on it that this was the easiest way for me to go about doing this, was just doing it one at a time. That way I could control the outcome. And you kind of have to move things out of your way, and if stuff gets too ornery, then just put a clip on it. And you're working with paper that's a little stiff. So you can come back and true up any little paper, you know, any unevenness in your paper. You can come back and straighten that up in a little bit. And so that's what I'm doing. Just shape the pages. Okay, so we got that one. So I'm going to close the book back up. And I have one more to do, so I'm holding it closed, and then I'm going to, again, trace around it. And I did the front half of the book using the front cover as the guide. I did the back half of the book using the back cover as the guide. And remembering that it is a handmade book, and so it may have its differences, you know, its uniqueness, shall we say. Hi, Carol. Welcome. Hi, Laura. Haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to see you. I'm broadcasting now because the internet in our area went kaput earlier today. Otherwise, I'm not normally on at this time. So, welcome, welcome. Okay, and one more little cut here, and with any luck at all, we'll have our pages shaped. And then if you've got any pages that are a little wonky, you can always come back and shape them up a little bit better. Okay, so I gotta hang up my phone. I'll be right back. It was telling me that its battery was low. Good for you, Laura. That's great. Okay, so there you go. There is our shaped book. Now you can go back, and I may do that. I may go back and add some more embellishments. I may put some beads, you know, sew some beads or sequins in beads or something like that. I may add some more embellishments with the little pearl pins and that kind of thing. But you can see that here's our little book. And I think this would be a fun book to use for writing positive thoughts or positive quotes or things about spirituality or whatever, you know, those kinds of things that I might want to do. So it was 5 folded pieces of paper, so that gives me 20 pages. So that's a nice size little book. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I made some acrylic sprays, acrylic ink sprays, I should say. And so I'm going to kind of move some stuff out of the way so that I can put a cloth up here on my table. Kind of protect things a little bit. Now you could get out stencils and you could do all kinds of stuff here, but we're just going to play with the sprays as they are. So the 3 colors that I used were, this is Waterfall Green. This is the F&W Pearlescent. I got this at Hobby Lobby. This is the F&W Pearlescent, and this is Genesis Green. And this is Liquitex ink, and it is quinacridone magenta. And so I put 7 droppers full of the ink into about 3/4 of this container of water. Yeah, wouldn't they be fun? Okay, so you want to be sure that when you make these up, that you make sure you put on it what it is, and if you want to ever recreate the formula, put what you did to it. Okay, so we're going to just open up here, and this one is the Genesis Green, and you could use stencils or whatever. I'm just going to go with some spray just to tint the color, tint the pages. And then I'm going to give it a shot with a heat gun. Okay, so we've got color going, and then I'm going to just repeat. You don't have to do the same colors on every page, of course. Just playing and seeing what by not depressing the plunger all the way, you get the more spotty look. Okay, so I'm going to do But these pearlescent inks, the F&W pearlescent inks, really give a nice look to things. And by using the acrylic ink, when they dry, they're going to be permanent. So if you want to come back over this with something else, you know, that is water, happens to have a water solubility, let's say you want to put in some collage or something that uses some glue that's water based, you're not going to reactivate your ink. Okay, and so that is what is going to tint the pages. Just playing around with some inks, and you can just tint the pages as you know you wish. So you can have those kinds of things, just a pastel look. You can get, just with 3 colors of ink, you can get various and sundry colors. And then the other thing you might want to do, that I did do on this, is I took black paint and a sponge, just a little bit of a sponge, and I sponged around the edge with some black, so that way it tinted the edge completely black, and that way you don't have any of the white core of the paper showing around the edge. Okay? All right, so any questions about anything? Because that's it. That's what I have for you tonight. And if you have questions, pop them in the chat real quick. I'm going to get the sponsors out. We're going to take a quick see you later, and we're going to get on with the evening. Okay. So then you can use it, you know, it's just a shaped little book that you can do. I mean, there's a lot of time involved in it, of course, but, you know, it's a handmade thing. So you have time involved in it, but, you know, not a lot of money involved in it for certain. So it's a fun little gift. If you want to use it for a gift. I don't know. I love books, so it doesn't make any difference to me. You know, I don't care. I like having books. Whether I make them, whether I buy them, whatever. And I like being able to do it with my stuff. So I like doing the stamp, even though it's based on somebody else's art. It's not a copy of their art. It's just, you know, using their artwork as inspiration. And so I can take their art and, you know, and turn it into something that is my version of their art. And I like that. And I can turn it into my, you know, use my paper and my colors and all that. I have nothing against commercial papers, believe me. But I think it's really nice to be able to do your own kinds of things. Okay, you coming up? All right, come on. Come on. Come on. You need to come up here and say goodbye to everybody. Oop, I got a camera that is not going to focus. Don't know what happened there. Oh, that camera is not going to work for us. I don't know why it is out of focus. Oh well. So you're going to get to see him up here today. Come here. Come here. You got to get up here is where they can see you. Where they can see your faces. Let's try a different camera. I don't know what happened to the focus on that camera. Come here. I'm trying to wrangle cats here, people. I'm wrangling cats. Okay. There we go. Cat wrangle Wrangler extraordinaire. Okay, now they won't look up at that camera, but you got the idea. You got the idea. Chance and Charlie. Can you look up here? There we go. There we go. Are you looking up? Are you saying hello to the peoples? You saying hello, people? There we go. Charlie, they're not even seeing you. Do you know that? Trying to get stuff out of the way so you can really see them. There's always more than one way to solve the problem, huh? Yeah, I know. All right, well, let's see. Can I make this happen? There we go. Okay, so thanks for joining me. Thanks for your patience today. A crazy day, but you know, some days are like that. Some days are like that. Yeah, they are. All right, so we're going to go. Thank you very much for joining me. I will see you next week. While I'm thinking about it, the day after Thanksgiving, I will not be streaming, so you might want to put that on your calendar. And I think we got everything done that I intended to do today, so I will see you next week. How much do they weigh? They are probably 16, 17 pounds. They are too fat. They came that way, and I have, in spite of everything I've tried, I have not been able to trim them down. So, yeah, they're big. They're too big, but it's the way they came, and I've tried really hard to thin you down, haven't I? Yeah, no, it doesn't do any good. Can't put cats on a diet for whatever reason. They just don't cooperate. I can't walk them like I do Muppet. All right, I will see you guys next week. And remember, there's no stream on the day after Thanksgiving, so we'll be off for that week. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining me. See you next week. Bye.